On the 26th of August, Company K traveled to Guadalcanal, where the Marines took part in amphibious landing training using Amtraks, amphibious tracked vehicles designed to transport troops from sea to shore. During this period of preparation, Sledge found himself explaining to a group of sailors that Haney was not actually Asiatic. This interaction led him to reflect on how Marines were often misunderstood by outsiders. While they could appear reckless, strange, or even crazy, Sledge realized that this behavior was really a coping mechanism. Marines deliberately developed a sense of ironic detachment and humor to help them mentally prepare for the extreme stress and suffering they knew they would soon face in combat. As the invasion drew closer, Sledge described Peleliu, part of the Caroline Islands, as having a shape similar to a lobster's claw. This geography strongly favored the Japanese defenders because the coral ridges surrounding the beaches gave them excellent positions from which to fire on any invading force. On the 14th of September, known as D-1, the Marines boarded ships and began their journey towards Peleliu. While on board, Sledge and one of his friends attempted to act calm despite the uncertainty and fear that everyone felt about the approaching battle. Sledge spent some time talking with his friend Oswald about their futures after the war. He admired Oswald greatly because of his intelligence and thoughtful personality. Oswald revealed that he hoped to become a neurosurgeon because he was fascinated by the complexities of the human brain. However, Sledge sadly noted that Oswald would later be killed during the fighting on Peleliu, making the conversation especially tragic in retrospect. As night approached, Sledge prepared himself for sleep but found it difficult to calm his thoughts. He tried to reassure himself by believing that he would survive because God loved him. At the same time, he recognized that God loved everyone equally, including those who would not survive the battle ahead. This thought offered little comfort, and feelings of panic began to overwhelm him. He silently prayed, searching for reassurance and inner peace. The following day, while observing a beautiful sunset over the Pacific Ocean, he was suddenly struck by the possibility that he might not be alive to witness another one. This realization filled him with fear and forced him to confront his own mortality. Shortly afterwards, a lieutenant addressed the Marines, warning them that the battle for Peleliu would be difficult and intense, although he assured them that it would likely only last a few days. On D-Day, 15th of September 1944, the Marines woke early and ate the traditional pre-combat meal of steak and eggs. The tension and anxiety experienced by the men had a physical effect, sending many of them rushing to the toilets. Since there were only two available, Haney occupied one for an unusually long time, leaving the other Marines standing in a long queue. Despite their frustration, none of them dared tell him to hurry. As dawn broke, Sledge stayed close to Snafu, whose experience as a veteran of Gloucester made Sledge feel more secure. Snafu offered him a cigarette, but Sledge refused. Snafu laughed and confidently predicted that by the end of the day, Sledge would be smoking like everyone else. Soon afterwards, the men were ordered to put on all of their equipment and board an Amtrak. Sledge later recalled this as one of the most intense moments of his entire life. As the vehicle floated onto the water and steadily moved towards the island, he watched the shoreline disappear beneath thick smoke and flames. The closer they came to the beach where they were expected to land, the more overwhelming the experience became, creating a level of fear and anticipation unlike anything he had ever known. At this point, Sledge paused his account to explain that many historians now believe the Battle of Peleliu was not essential to achieving victory in World War II. Nevertheless, they also agree that it was one of the most brutal and savage battles fought during the conflict. Peleliu was significant because it revealed a major change in Japanese defensive strategy. Instead of relying on a single line of defense, Japanese forces constructed an interconnected network of heavily fortified caves, bunkers, and pillboxes spread throughout the island. This new approach transformed the fighting into a relentless war of attrition, forcing the Marines to destroy each individual defensive position one by one. The result was a prolonged and merciless battle that continued until every Japanese stronghold had been eliminated.